Alright, hello. We're going to do the Donnie Darko 88 Decode. It's really to do with the numbers of the end of the world that's on Donnie Darko's arm with the 28 days later reference. Where to begin with it? Before we even get into that, right, just one thing with Donnie Darko right now. If we take Frank the rabbit, who's going to give him the end of the world date as well, okay, the rabbit, right, we've got Easter coming up. Easter, so the Easter bunny here, let's look at the name Donnie Darko. Let's think about the dark O, and let's think that if Easter's on April the 5th, okay, so this is Easter Sunday. The dark O is when Jesus is in the tomb. So that would be 4/4. Okay, they take him to the tomb on Friday, but he's in the tomb basically on the Saturday. Yeah, Black Sabbath. I talked about this the other day with Ozzy Osbourne. Black Sabbath 4/4. That is also the dark O, yeah, being inside the tomb, inside the eclipse. Yeah, the dark O. So we've got with the initials here, DD, 4/4 reference. Okay, 4/4 is the dark O, and I was also looking at Madonna for that particular day coming up for her death. Okay, I do have a date before that. I have the 31st of March as well for Madonna as an interesting date. But yeah, super duper interesting with just the reference of the name, Frank the Bunny, Easter this year, the Easter Bunny. Okay, so that's before even getting into this. So it could be that the name is pointing us to this year. Okay, there are, obviously Easter comes out on 4/5 every once in a while, but anyway, it's not like it's like it's not going to be every. What usually happens is it'll come out on 4/5, and then it might skip a couple of years, and then it might skip a couple more years, and then it might skip 10 years or whatever, and then another 10 years. So it's a bit like that with how Easter dates work, right? Anyway, let's crack on with the actual decode. So we need to go to the arm of Donnie Darko, and again, if you want to see some good stuff on decodes of Donnie Darko, I highly recommend 88 Finis Temporis. Put your 88 in Roman numerals. Finis Temporis. He's got a ton of decodes on Donnie Darko, I believe. Well, I know he's got a few anyway. And this is actually where I first saw what I'm going to show you first of all with the arm reference, which is adding up these numbers on the arm. Okay, so I think maybe he was the one that came up with that. So let's go down here and I'll show you something. So we're going to add up these are the end of the world numbers that Frank gives to Donnie Darko. Okay, so when you add these numbers up, okay, what that equals is 88. So as I said, I saw this originally with 88 Finis Temporis, and a lot of people have subsequently used that, right? Now, when I first saw this, it kind of inspired me to think a little bit more about these numbers. So this is an old decode. Part of this is an old decode that's in my back catalogue. But I thought to myself, why don't we add these numbers up in reverse? Because there's always this, with the time travel idea, there's always this idea of going backwards and forwards. So I was like, why don't we add these up in reverse? So if you were to take these numbers in reverse, you'd have 82, 60. So it's interesting that they leave the 0 in there. Okay, so 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds now changes to 82, 60, 24, and then 21. And so if we add these all up, it comes to 187. Okay, so now we're going to use these two numbers in some number jumps. In fact, we're going to use this number right here in a number jump and see when it comes out. Now, our target date for the Hoover Dam is 9/4, okay, or 4/9, okay, the 9th of April. So what we need to do, let's go back to this, and I've got some number jumps in here. So firstly, what I want to do, what I did to get to this was I just went 187 days back from my target date just to see where it came out, okay, and where it comes out is 10/04/2025. So 187 days back is 10/04. Now I was like, oh, okay, so this becomes very, very interesting, because this is the date that a lot of people use to connect back to the clock tower and Back to the Future, because the clock stops at 10:04, okay, and so that is this exact date. Yeah, you put your 04 in there, so that is your exact date there. And not only does the clock stop at that time in Back to the Future, but this is when, of course, the lightning bolt hits the top of the clock tower and then sends the DeLorean back as it hits 88 miles per hour. And we know that when we look at the days left in the year for October the 4th, happens to be 88 days in the year. So what we have is a date here that works. This is an end date, because 88 days from this date takes you to the end of a year. So it gives you an end date, the completion of a cycle, which I thought was super duper interesting. That then we take the reverse number and we can take that on round, maybe for another end date, because of course Frank references it as the end of the world. Okay, so there's my, well, that is my 88 decode with the Donnie Darko arm numbers. Okay, what else do I want to mention about this? I wanted to mention something in the film as well, right? So as I was just saying, Back to the Future, and now this is what's fascinating about this. So Back to the Future, the clock tower is getting struck by lightning, and the lightning is the product of what? The storm. Okay, so there's something falling from heaven, so to speak, right? And in Back to the Future, it's a lightning bolt. In Donnie Darko, the thing that falls out of the storm, we see it's a storm later on when Donnie Darko actually dies. The thing that we see fall out is a jet engine, okay, and it hits into Donnie Darko's bedroom, right? And so I've got a picture of the house up, Donnie Darko's house, and we can see again that although it's not the same as the clock tower has 4 pillars. Donnie Darko's house has 6 pillars. Okay, it's the White Temple again. Okay, I'm not really sure about the very top of this, what it looks like up here. You know, whether it's comes up to a peak like that or not, or what, or whether it's just a flat roof there or whatever. But it's got the 6 pillars. It's white. It's the temple. Okay, like the clock tower in Back to the Future, and it's going to get struck from above with a jet engine falling in to Donnie Darko's room. So it's going to get hit, okay, from the storm, you know. And at the end of it, you see that it's swirling around like a bit like a tornado, referencing back to probably Wizard of Oz and all that stuff as well. Okay, but the thunderstorm. Let me just show you again what I was talking about in my Back to the Future decode was the number 11. We went from the 11th of the year, the 11th day of the year, 88 days on, is our 4-9 date. So I showed you this, okay? And I also showed you, so this was from the 11th day of the year, 88 days takes us to 4-9. The other thing that I showed you is that from 9/11 through to this other 11, so we've got an 11 through to an 11 date, and it's 88. Now, what is interesting about let me just repeat this, what is interesting about the Fibonacci cycle, did this ever come up? Oh, I thought, computer's having trouble. Look, why does it do that? Okay, so what's interesting about the Fibonacci cycle is that in that cycle, the number 11 and the number 88 are a set of twins that balance with one another. Okay, across, if you were to draw out the cycle, they would be directly across from one another. They balance with each other. Okay, and that cycle ends on 9 and begins on 1, followed by another 1. So 9/11 is a direct reference to this. So again, what was interesting was that in Donnie Darko, as I was saying before, is that like this whole 88 stuff is a reference also back to 1111, which is at the Hoover Dam. Okay, and also when you do this other jump, it's another 1-1. So you have essentially, with that whole number jump from 9/11 through to 4-9, you have 8, 8, 8, 8 plus another 88 on the end of that. So there's your number jumps, okay, encoded with this form of the temple here. Okay, and we're talking about this thing getting hit, which is this is a reference to, you know, the Temple of Diana, Back to the Future, the clock tower getting hit is a reference to the Hoover Dam collapsing. Okay, and that's our time is the 10:04 as well. Okay, now what I also mentioned as well is that from our 4-9, our next day on is 4-10. Okay, the clock stopping 10:04 in reverse. Okay, I think that has to be it for it. I don't think I had anything else. The one thing that I will reference, I do have one more thing. Sorry, where is it in here? There's this one. No, that's the one Back to the Future. What was this one? Hang on a minute. It's this one here. Okay, so I thought, ooh, I will do, just go back 28 days from 9/4 just to see what it was. And this is really interesting. This is actually quite a nice reference to the sun and to the mother again, because 3/12. Okay, the first thing about 3/12, let's write on here. The first thing about a lot of the references in Back to the Future to do with plutonium. Okay, and plutonium and Pluto is all connected in with Lucas numbers. Okay, and when I'm talking about Lucas numbers, these are the numbers that start 2, 1, 3. Okay, now what we have here is a version of Lucas numbers. We can read this backwards. It's 2, 1, 3. This is also, if we read it this way, 1, 2, 3. This is also the 10th Lucas number as well. So this is very interesting with beginning and ends of cycle, because 10 marks the completion of a cycle. Yeah. So already this is pretty interesting. In Lucas numbers, we format. I don't want to. Well, I mean, we could go to a different. Let me go to a different table here, and let me show you about Lucas numbers and why 28 is so important with that. Computer is just having trouble. Do you see how many tabs I've got up? Because I'm. Oh, what am I doing? Well, it would help if I press the right button. Come on, Dan. I'm having trouble. Don't know about the computer. Okay, here. This is the middle of our this is Lucas numbers right here, and this is the middle of our these are our balancing numbers to do with Lucas numbers, right? Or the middle of our table, right? And we can reduce, if we do this, if we take the 11 and leave it as is, and if we reduce the 18 down to a 9, we have 911. If we add up these numbers right here, this comes to 28. If we go back 28 days from this point, okay, it's going to take us to 8/14. The 14th of August is 28 days earlier than 9/11. Now, as I was saying, this whole number line has a ton of references to Pluto. Again, if you just look at this and do the opposite reduction here, okay, which is reduce the 11 and leave the 18, you have the day that Pluto was discovered. 1.48 happens to be the difference between, I believe, a Pluto year and an Earth year in days, yeah? What else do we have in here? If you come to this point here, which is 322, which we've just had some interesting stuff with 322, that actual day there, actually, if you sum all the numbers along this this row, yeah, here, this is going to come to 842. Okay, now Pluto has a 248 year orbit, right? And also, just remember that Bye Bye Miss American Pie, okay, American Pie by Don McLean is 8 minutes 42 long. And in some places you can also, I'm pretty sure in some places 8:43 long as well, maybe. Anyway, another thing you can do here is you can add up, and I can't remember exactly which numbers it is here, but I feel like it's like 18 through might be all the way to here, something like that. That will come to, anyway, I believe it might be 18 through to 322. That will come to, I believe it's something like 841. Okay, you can kind of figure that out. And then there's another set of numbers in here, which was very interesting for this year in particular. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's this bunch. If you add these numbers up, I think it's something like, I want to say through, it's either 200, it's either 239 or actually it might be I think it's 329. Okay, but 239 again is to do with plutonium 239, and just coincidentally, I believe, no, I don't believe it was that. I believe, well, I don't know which number it is, but I'm pretty sure it equated out to Ash Wednesday. I can't remember off the top of my head. I feel like it was, but I believe that Ash Wednesday is on the 29th of March. Anyway, that number's in there. Anyway, a lot of wiffle waffle, but 28 days earlier than this is 8/14, and again, the cycle, when you convert this into the cycle, 2 and 8 is the end of the cycle, 2 is the beginning. So it's super duper important to do with all this stuff with Lucas numbers. And again, you know, 8/14, let me show you something here. I might have this up still. Jake Gyllenhaal. Okay, Jake Gyllenhaal, look, this is his family coat of arms. Look, number, look at this, 814 up here. I mean, it's stuff like this that's, you know, it's just crazy. Okay, Mr. Donnie Darko himself. What else to say? I don't know. that number there, though, the 312 connects back to Lucas numbers, something crazy. And of course the 213 there that we were talking about with the 28 days earlier, to do with this number cycle or number line. That's just crazy, okay, that the 28's mentioned. And also, let me show you the calendar as well, because if you go to the 12th, 71, we've got Diana's birthday, and again we're talking about the mother and the son. So we have Diana's birthday, and we've been talking about the white wedding stuff quite a bit. And look what we have here, 294 days left in the year, which again, when did William, Diana's son, get married to Kate? The 29th of April. So you see how you go around in circles with the numbers, okay? But yes, super duper interesting with the 1, 2, 3, and also let me show you just one more interesting about 1, 2, 3. This is an in-between total up to this point here. So up to and including this number, if you add all these numbers up in this line, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, okay, is the total at that point. So that is very interesting with that date as well. And also, don't forget that, I feel like it was 2 years ago now, the Hoover Dam and 9/11 were 3, 2, 1, 2, 3 days apart. I think that's what it was. Exactly. Okay, from the birthday of the Hoover Dam through to 9/11, whatever it was, a couple of years ago. So super duper interesting there as well. That's it. That's it for the decode. All right. I don't know what else to say. Just crazy stuff, really. Don't forget that they do reference the DeLorean in Donnie Darko as well. So they do reference the DeLorean. Instead of a bolt of lightning from the thunderstorm, Donnie Darko instead gets it could be a Rolls-Royce engine. I don't know. That would also be another reference to as either a Pratt and Whitney or a Rolls-Royce engine in it. And again, that references back to 9/11. You know, the engine, you know, that's sitting there after in the wreckage, so to speak, that's just sitting there on the ground, along with old Matt's Quantum of Conscience, his inflated tire as well. Okay. Alright, well, we're going to leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you on another one soon. Alright. Cheers. Bye.